sympathetic review of requests by Chinese students in the United States to extend their stay, and the offer of humanitarian and medical assistance through the Red Cross to those injured during the assault.
港府今晚係租用一架包機，專程去到北京接載滯留嘅香港居民。今晚隨機返港嘅一共係有70人，包括學生、記者同埋一啲個別人士。其中現時仍然係被北京公安當局扣留嘅全港資源愛國民主運動聯委會嘅代表李卓人，原本亦都係乘搭呢班包機嘅。另外，港府喺今晚7點開始設立一條熱線電話，俾市民查詢北京港人嘅情況。電話號碼係5-869-1313。
Do you know why the girl is killed?
Yeah, she was a student. She was a demonstrator.
We saw students run down to Tiananmen Square, and then we saw the running all night, and we heard gunfire. And we heard gunfire all night, and then when we left, we saw buses that were overturned, and we saw some that had burned out.
Meanwhile, TVB News.
A TVB news team was among the Hong Kong residents who returned from Beijing earlier tonight. While in the Chinese capital, the team asked for refuge at the British Embassy after troops started the massacre, but to no avail. Reporter Mabel Chan elaborated on the matter during a public affairs program this evening.
I tried to call them once in the morning at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I got a call back at 3:30. Within those 6 hours, I've been calling and calling, but I kept being told that nobody's there, and we'll get a call back. I did finally get a call back at 3:30, and it was not the ambassador, it was the second secretary. And he was telling me that my best advice for you is to stay where you are, stay put. This is what I've been telling all the Hong Kong journalists. We're not in a position to help you at this point. And I said to them, we really fear for our safety because of where we are, and we need to seek refuge in the embassy. Can you provide any kind of an arrangement for us to get to your embassy? He said no, because it's where you are at the Beijing Hotel and where we are at the embassy is too far away. It's about 30 minutes by car normally. But under a situation like this, we would say at least 45 minutes. And going through a lot of detours, we just cannot guarantee your safety. And I said to him, what if we take our own responsibility for our own lives? We risk our lives, we go to the embassy and we knock on your door. Would you accept us? He said, no, we won't, because we're not ready to take all of you guys. We have made no arrangement at this point. All I can say to you is stay put where you are. This is what we've been saying to all the Hong Kong reporters.
The managing director of Hutchison Whampoa, Simon Murray, has called on the British government to take a stronger stand and reconsider the passport issue. Betty Liu reports.
Well, inevitably...
Simon Murray says now is the time for the British government to stand up for Hong Kong. As the basic law is being drafted, Murray asks what is that document worth, one which is from a government that shoots students and unarmed civilians. He feels Britain should do more for Hong Kong.
They should be thinking hard about maybe reserving their rights on this document. They should also be thinking hard about the issue of passports. This has been talked about many times in the past. You know, in 1992, the whole of Europe could effectively be on the move. There are going to be no restrictions. You could have 200 million people with the right of abode in the UK. And we are talking about a couple of million people, or so 3 million people who were born in Hong Kong. In the context of the 200 million who will have the right automatically of abode in the UK in 1992, I think the British government should be thinking very hard about the passport issue.
And he thinks that words alone from the Foreign Secretary is not enough.
It is no good Sir Geoffrey Howe sitting in his armchair in London telling us that everything's going to be all right and everybody should relax. Certainly this is the time for cool heads. We don't want to get over-emotional. We don't want to get panicking and running amok and so on and so forth. But I think this is a move where the British government should show us, we're British citizens in Hong Kong, some leadership and some comfort.
Betty Liu, TVB News.
There are more and more reports tonight of battles between Chinese troops. A Western diplomat is quoted as saying the situation could deteriorate into a civil war. A reliable Chinese military source said serious fighting broke out between troops at an airbase south of Beijing. Earlier, there were reports that troops were attacking universities in the Beijing area, but tonight sources say the universities remain safe because of the fighting between the troops. Meanwhile, the 3 days of violence has left Beijing streets paralyzed. Mei Wang reports.
The Avenue of Eternal Peace was free of protesters this morning. The only signs of the violence that had taken place were the discarded roadblocks that lay scattered on the pavement. Small groups of people stood on street corners, but they no longer tried to confront the troops. At the universities, students and teachers mourned over the death of their comrades. This morning, a reporter and cameraman of CBS News were released from police custody. They were detained when the violence erupted early Sunday morning and held for almost 20 hours. Reporter Richard Roth says they were roughed up when the police first arrested them, but otherwise they were treated well. Outside the city center, residents continued to vent their frustration over the bloody military crackdown by burning vehicles. As much of Beijing remains paralyzed, it will be a while before the city recovers from the shock over what has happened and life returns to normal.
Tens of thousands of troops remain stationed in the city center near Tiananmen Square. We received this footage of the situation there yesterday.
After the bloody massacre early Sunday morning, troops and tanks completely sealed off the area around Tiananmen Square. But their ominous presence didn't scare the crowds away as they confronted the soldiers with verbal abuses. The soldiers retaliated with gunfire and clubs. The injured were rushed to hospital on trishaws. But once the shooting stopped, defiant protesters took up their positions again in front of the troops. And again, there were more shootings and beatings. Eyewitnesses say the soldiers acted like they were on drugs as they brutally assaulted the unarmed civilians. Often, several troops would close in on one protester. The blood spilled left the cake on the street, ironically known as the Avenue of Eternal Peace. As day turned into night, the troops showed no sign of leaving the area that they had taken back so violently from student demonstrators. Instead, more tanks and armored vehicles were sent in to reinforce their position. Mei Wang, TVB News.